Flosstube. My name is Becca and I'm SamBrie Stitches here on Flosstube. Welcome to another special edition of Interview with a Flosstuber. I'm actually very honored to be here today with Maria. Her channel is Cup of Stitches here on Flosstube. And if you're not familiar with her, I'll put a link down below. To be honest, her channel is newer to me, but I went back and watched quite a few. And when I found her channel, I think was below like 900 subscribers or so. And our community kind of came together and shared her channel. And now she is showing her beautiful work to over 2,000 subscribers, which is awesome. She also did some videos from inside Ukraine, which we will talk about in just a little bit. But what I enjoy about her channel, besides, her being open and honest about what was going on or what is going on, she stitches beautiful projects. If you go to her Instagram account, and I need to learn tips and tricks from her photography because it's just a beautiful feed of pictures. From mirabilias to, smaller pieces. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So I will put all the links down below for that. But before we jump into the normal interview questions, I have asked Maria if she is comfortable kind of giving us an idea of what she went through when she was in Ukraine, when the Russians invaded, and what it was like, and how she was able to get to safety. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about that, we would appreciate it.
Well, Becca, thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you so much for warm words. And definitely I'll share some tips and tricks on the Instagram. No problem. Because I do all the pictures actually with my phone. So yeah, no problem about that. So yeah, it so happened that I was in Ukraine. I had a family emergency of a sort, so I had to go. And even though we already knew that there's some tension building up on the border, didn't have much choice. So I went there on the 21st, and on the 24th of February, I remember it very well. We woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning because my friend called me. My friend called me and she told me that we're under attack, like there are explosions in the city. I woke up my mom and my mom was like, no way, like it's not true. It's just let's sleep. And then we heard two explosions. The windows shattered, like not shattered, just a little bit, like we heard like vibration, out of the windows. It was not close to our house, but it was like we could hear them. And since then it was, I still cannot even believe that it actually happened. It's something that you read in the books, you watch movies about it, but when you're actually in the situation, it's almost like you're half in disbelief and half it's very particular sort of fear when you just like an animal fear, like you would do anything to just escape it. And I really don't know how like our forces, like how all the people who protect our country, like how they manage to deal with it, because all I could think about is I just want to run and anywhere, like I want to be anywhere but here. And so on the 24th, it was impossible to get out of Kiev because everyone was getting out of Kiev. There were cars, there were traffic jams, taxis were not working. And we just stayed put for one day. And this is when I filmed my first video. I already told you back, like I sent you a message and I explained, because usually like on my Flosstube channel, I'm sharing my Flosstube stuff, like my projects, and I never actually dive into any deep personal stuff. But on the 24th, I guess, I didn't know how long we will have internet, how long, like what the situation is going to be. I knew that I'm stuck at the moment. I knew that I cannot do much in the situation, right? So I just wanted to share it just for people to know. I don't know, it's just like a scream, you know, like a scream of my soul, of what I just wanted to share what we were going through. And so I filmed that little piece of video and I uploaded it. And so basically this is it. On the 24th, it was calm where my mother, like where my parents lived, because there were no explosions near, there were no air sirens actually. And we were like lucky that way, I guess. And on the 25th, when we woke up, we realized that everyone is gone, like all our family members, like friends, everyone who could get out of the city, they got out of the city the day before. And so we were kind of stuck again because we just couldn't get out. And the husband of my cousin, they had like a house outside, and he invited us over. He's like, come, but there was no way to get there. So I'm sorry, it's going too long. I feel like
you're fine.
It's like a story, the endless story that I could be talking again and again. But anyway, so he, like a knight in shining armor, he actually came through to pick us up. He brought us there. He gave us a car. He shoved me pretty much into the car. And me and my mom, we went on a road. The road lasted 3 days. For me, it was very hard because I'm not actually a driving person. I'm a walking person. Like if I can avoid driving, I would avoid driving. But also it was on the other side of the road because in Cyprus we have left-sided traffic, and in Kiev we have a right-sided traffic, like in most countries. Because Cyprus is a like ex-British colony. This is why we have the British way.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
So I was just driving. First day we drove for 12 hours. We barely got nowhere pretty much because it was just all traffic. And the next day I drove for 14 hours, and the last day was the best because it was like 8 hours. And it was pretty scary because wherever we drove, like there were air sirens. We saw the planes, just jets. No, not jets. I'm not sure. Like I'm not very knowledgeable about the types of planes. So the big scary
planes.
Yeah, just over our heads, and sirens and explosions, and it was surreal and very scary. But at the end of the day, we got to the border with Slovakia. We crossed the pedestrian border. It was pretty fast. My family brought us there. And from then on, we stayed in Slovakia for a couple of days, and then we went to Vienna. And from Vienna, finally, I came to Cyprus. In general, I think it took me about a week to get home from Kiev here to Cyprus. And since then it's been better actually. Like compared the first day when I just came here, I was at a loss completely. Like it was very confusing, but now it's better. It's better. I'm still like worried about my family because all my family is there, but at least my mom is here now with her Chihuahua. The protection dog that was with us all the way.
I have one too. They think they're so ferocious.
I know. Yeah. Whenever they stopped us on the blog posts, he would scream at the army. Like he would just bark at everyone.
You guys were super safe with the Chihuahua.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know. Yeah. And the good news is that my best friend managed to get out, and she's coming to us on Wednesday. That's great. And my cousin is coming to us on Saturday. So they're going to stay with us. And I'm very happy about it, that we can help and that it will be safe.
That's great news. Have you heard from any of your family that's still there? Like with any updates, and are they okay and as safe as they can be?
They're okay. Yeah. So every morning since the 24th, every morning starts with sort of a check-in with everyone. So we just sit with my mom and we write to all our relatives. my aunt, she's a doctor in the children's hospital in the suburbs of Kiev, so she refused to leave. She's staying, like she stays there, and a lot of people, like a lot of men in our family and friends, just stayed to protect the cities, and the women and the children, they tried to leave, either go to the west part of the country that is a little bit safer, and some of them like managed to cross the border. So yeah, so we were checking in on them every day. So far everyone is alive and healthy. That's good.
I mean, that's all you can ask for right now. I have no words. From you, just for you experiencing it and getting to safety, but just watching social media, because like people who have TikTok accounts and stuff like that, or YouTube accounts, have been, it's almost better to watch them than the news, actually, because you're getting, raw, real life, what they're experiencing. And there are no words, absolutely no words, for what is going on. So thank you so much for opening up and sharing, what you went through, with us. I think that, most people, I don't think they fully realize just how horrific and how scary it is to be there and just want to escape. So
it's I hope this was the scariest moment in my life, and there will be nothing to trump that. But I to finish this conversation about war on the more of a kind of positive note, like as much as we can, right?
Yeah, right.
This whole experience actually made me realize what is the true happiness in life, and it's actually very, very simple things. It's actually just sitting on the sofa with my husband and my daughter and cross-stitching and watching, in my case, Harry Potter, and just like drinking tea from your favorite cup, and having the peaceful sky over your head. Yeah. It just you never like you don't realize usually, like, because it's just normal life, but this is the true happiness.
Yeah, it's because most of us take that for granted, that just those simple things that you described, we take it for granted for the most part. And the poor people that are, in Ukraine and living such a horrific time right now, they can't have that right now. So you got me teary. You got me teary-eyed.
I'm so sorry. I feel like I don't have any more tears to cry.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a good way to end on a positive note, though, is basically the message is just don't take things for granted, live every day to its fullest, enjoy sitting on the couch and drinking your tea or your coffee and spending time with family, for sure. Yeah. Whew. Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into some questions and get talking about some cross-stitch stuff.
Yes.
The first question is, why did you start a floss tube, and were there any particular motivations?
So my motivation, I was in desperate need of a friend that I can share my cross-stitching projects and all my thoughts about it, because I think I don't have anybody who would cross-stitch, like the person offline, right? The person in real life. Right. Nobody of my friends, nobody of my family, nobody cross-stitches. So the only person I could share is my husband. And I think that he's a hero, obviously, for listening to like hours and hours of, he knows everything, Mirabilia, Crinix, and different fancy cloths. But I mean, enough is enough. So he just, at some point, he just told me, Maria, you should really start a YouTube channel, the channel is to some kind of
somewhere else.
Somewhere else. So this is how I came up with the idea. But since I think I I wanted to do it for a couple of years, and I started it only, I think, in 2020. Yeah, because I didn't have much time. I was working full time. Now I also work full time, but I was living in Canada, and in Canada people work a lot. Not saying that anywhere else, they most probably people work a lot everywhere, but where I lived in Canada, people work a lot. So they just I didn't have time. I just had time for stitching, and I wanted to stitch at that time.
Yeah.
But then COVID happened, and working from home happened, and I stopped spending 2 hours a day on commute. So I decided, why not to try? And I tried, and I really loved it. It became a hobby of its own, you know.
Right. I think just having the channel, it helps you feel like you're connecting with people. You know, they leave comments, you have conversations, and it turns into a friendship, which is really nice. So
Yeah, exactly. It's really nice.
So speaking of your channel, how did you come up with your channel name?
Yeah, I would love to say that it was like a light bulb, and I thought of a beautiful name, and it all came together, and it has a spiritual meaning. But the truth is that I could not find a name. I was trying different ones, and it was just I thought, okay, I love coffee, I love tea, so cup, and then stitches because you stitch, so just stitches. Yeah, nothing extraordinary about it.
It still has you still have a meaningful name though, because you love, you know, tea and coffee. So I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, I figure there's so many YouTube channels. It's, you know, it's going to get to the point where it's kind of difficult to pick out names and stuff like that, because there's so many. So, but yeah. I see a dog back there.
Yep. She came to visit us.
Oh, see the back end.
Tequila, come.
Oh my gosh.
That's Tequila.
Tequila?
Tequila, yes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, so adorable. Oh my gosh.
She's very sweet.
Oh.
She's my friend. Okay, down, no treat.
Keep loving me. How did you learn to stitch, and how long have you been stitching?
So I learned to stitch in school. We have these classes in Ukraine. It's very common. I'm not sure that they have them still. I think they do, where they teach girls. It's a little bit sexist. So boys, they do stuff from like wooden stuff and some like with hammers and that stuff. And girls, they teach them to stitch, to sew, to crochet and knit and cook. Well, for me, cooking didn't stick, obviously, because unfortunately, crochet, I can crochet and knit, but only scarves, because they're straight and you just go and like, you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do much.
Straight, exactly. But cross stitching, really, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it, and I think back then I cross stitched like a little bunny from my mom, and then I cannot say that I was cross stitching like all the time. Just tried it and I liked it, and then when I was about 18, I got interested in the traditional Ukrainian kind of motifs and cross stitching. So I did that for a while, and then I went into university, and then I was more interested in going out and and studying, going out, then cross stitching. So yeah, and I think I took on it again when I was about 6 years ago, I think, or maybe like 7 years ago. So in and out. I cannot say how many years continuously. I think seriously, like all the time, seven years, I would say.
Good amount of time. That's just really interesting because like here in the US, when I was in school, we had like a home ec type of thing, but I remember like a cooking class, but I don't remember ever learning any sort of fiber arts really. So that's interesting that you kind of grew up. I would love to have grown up with that that type of skill of learning to knit or crochet. And so, because I'm 40 something and barely can use my sewing machine. So
oh, me neither. Trust me. So, yes, sewing classes were not very successful either for me.
They probably wouldn't have been for me either. So
no, I wish I was better at it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my sewing machine. I do have a sewing machine, but it's somewhere there in the like a storage room, and I never take it out.
Mine sat in a box for I think 2 years. We bought it brand new. It sat in the box for 2 years. Finally got it out. Used it a couple of times. I was like, eh. And now I can make basic quilts. Like if you just sew a straight line,
great.
We're good. That's it. So do you have a favorite project that you've stitched so far?
Yes, I do. I actually prepared it. I have it with me. Yay. So I have sort of a favorite project altogether. So it's this memorabilia.
Wow.
It's called Mermaid Perfume. Mermaid Perfume? Perfume?
Mermaid's Perfume?
Yeah,
That's
Mermaid.
Mira. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed stitching it. I did a kind of my conversion of the face and the body. So it's used, I used, how you call it? The petit point. So
wow.
Yeah, so I love mermaids.
That is stunning.
When I saw her, I really loved her. And I knew that I have to have her and I have to stitch her. So this is my favorite so far. And I prepared the other one that was not the favorite to stitch, but I really love how it turned out.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
And this is the biggest one. This is the icon.
Gosh.
This is so this is 99,000 stitches. It's on 18 Ada.
99,000.
Yeah, it's huge. It's it's really big, but I really love how it looks. I really love it. I really love how it turned out, but it was not easy to stitch at all.
Who is it by?
It is Luca S or Lucas, sometimes they call it. Yeah. This is wow. I believe they have it in needlepoint technique and in cross stitch.
In cross stitch. Wow.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Since you stitch mirrors and like full coverage and stuff like that, do you have stitchy shops where you live, or do you order? How easy is it to get supplies? Because you have like beautiful dyed fabric and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So when I lived in Canada, I had a stitchy shop. It's called Gita's in Etobicoke in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice to have a stitch. It was actually the first time in my life when I had something so close. In Cyprus, we used to have, but they closed, I think, for the lack of demand. Well, thanks God, we live in the 21st century. Internet works. So I order from 1 to 3 Stitch. Okay. This is my go-to kind of, or from Ukrainian stores, because in Ukraine we do have a lot of cross-stitching stores where you can order kits and fabrics and everything.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's good to hear that you have, because I think those of us that live in like the US, we have quite a few stitchy shops. And so, ordering.
So lucky.
Yeah.
So lucky.
Some places are lucky, some not so much, because brick and mortars are few and far between as well now. There used to be so much more. But yeah, that's why I was wondering, like for mail, for mailing stuff, if it's easily accessible for you. So that's great that you can get all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we are, let's see, where are we at? Because we got to chit chat. And so, what do you enjoy most about stitching?
So that's an interesting question. Because I always wanted to draw or to paint.
Okay.
but I never actually got, well, kind of, I do draw and paint, but it's not the level that which I would actually love to. Like, I would love to be gifted, to be gifted
Right.
to
Me too.
paint beautiful paintings and draw beautiful drawings. But unfortunately, well, it's just my talent lies in other places apparently. So I love cross stitching because you can kind of work with colors. You can just immerse yourself in different colors. And for me, it's very therapeutic. Like when I stitch, sometimes I want to stitch something in green colors or in blue colors or in reds, and it all influences my mood. And I get so much energy and inspiration from it. I love it. I love this about stitching.
Yeah, I could see that. When I describe it to people, because when you're stitching, it's almost like you're painting with floss, because in the end, like the pieces that you showed, they look like they could be paintings. Once they're in a frame, if you're standing back, they could be a painting or a drawing or whatever. You can't always tell that it's stitched. So when I describe it to people, like I describe it as kind of painting with floss, because in the end it just is an amazing piece. So, and it is definitely very, very therapeutic. So for sure. We're going to get out of Stitchy Talk a little bit and learn a little bit more about you. And what's your favorite genre of book or movie?
This is also a difficult question because I love different books. I will tell you which I love like the most. I love fantasy. I love different stories that tell about like families and a relationship within the families. The last book I read was The Dutch House. It's a very good book, and I think it illustrates very well the type of books I like. And the fantasy that I'm reading right now is The Wheel of Time, because I watched the series on, I think it's not in Netflix, it's in Prime. Yeah. Oh, okay. So the Wheel of Time. So that's kind of the type of books I like. Sometimes I read nonfiction as well, for work, sometimes just for me, but I think it sums it up more or less. And as for movies, again, I like fantasy. I like different movies about history. And I don't watch horror movies because I am easily impressible person. Like I really jump and I cannot sleep at night. So I would love to, but my husband would love me to watch horror movies with him. He tried to persuade me to watch it several times, but I see just that picture from from the preview, and like no,
don't need anymore.
Yeah. I do love me also some series. Netflix, I think it's a very good combination when you turn on the series and you just cross stitch. It's nice.
It's funny because I've done a lot of these interviews and from people all over the world, and we're all stitchers, of course, but we also have so many other common interests besides stitching. And like I said, it's people from all over the world. So fantasy is a huge thing in our stitching community, like the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's huge in our community. And also like the history and the historical, aspect of it, that's huge also. And it's so funny that there's well, I guess not funny, but it's very interesting to find out that people that you probably will never meet in person, but they're also a stitcher, have so many common interests with you. It blows my mind because I've been doing these interviews and the answers are so similar, and these people don't even know each other except for coming through like Instagram for stitching. It's just so cool.
That's so interesting.
We all have common interests.
Do you think that it makes? Do you think that it actually is connected, and the people who prefer, for example, fantasy and historical movies and books, they are more prone kind of to do cross stitching. Is it like, I'm just wondering, is it somewhere in the brain, you know, where some neurons are responsible for
Yeah,
for this hobbies?
I've been trying because, and I say it in quite a few of my interviews, how intrigued I am by it. And I'm curious as to maybe that's why, maybe that's a good point, you know, because of just creativity, being drawn to stitching or just, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's just so interesting. And I love it that our community isn't just about stitching. There's so much more to it that we all have in common. So it's kind of neat. Speaking of all of the stuff we just talked about, what fictional place would you most like to go to?
Hogwarts.
Yeah, I figured you were going to say that. That is like, I think that's the top answer. You know?
Yeah, that's like Hogwarts, Hogsmeade.
Yep, anywhere in like Harry Potter. Yeah, I think that would be. I think a whole bunch of us should just meet up at like Disney World or something like that. That's the closest we're gonna get, basically.
I also wouldn't mind going to the Shire, and because I feel like I'm a hobbit in my soul, and in my habits, my husband calls me a hobbit because I like I have breakfast, then I have my 11 C's, then I have a luncheon, then I have a dinner, that's supper, and I kind of like I'm a homey person, and I just enjoy being at home, and yeah, definitely hobbit. I would love like to say that I'm a beautiful like elf, you know, slender and all that stuff, but I think it's more like a hobbit.
I think a lot of people answered, well, there was a couple for the Shire, but now I can't remember. What's the elf? Oh my gosh.
Rivendell.
Yeah. Quite a few people said there because it's so tranquil and they could just like relax and stitch and it's quiet and everything like that. But yeah, another like common thread that we all have are those Harry Potter and Lord of the, it's so crazy. So crazy. So if you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
So at first I thought that I would say cross stitch, but I say, okay, you know, if I choose to cross stitch for a day, I can. It will take some effort to figure out where to put my daughter for the full day, but okay, you know, I can do that. But so I decided to think about something that it's really like a dream of mine. So I would love to swim with the whales. I love whales, and it's my dream to maybe not to swim with them, but at least like to go on a ship where they swim, to see them, the humpback whales, and to hear them sing. So yeah, I would love to do that.
You need to come visit me in Washington, because we went, my husband and I, for our anniversary a couple years ago or something, we went on a whale watching tour. So you go out on a ship, and we went out under the water, and we went up towards the Canadian border, and we got to see some whales there. Oh, it is absolutely amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Oh, it is. It's almost surreal and breathtaking, because it's not something you get to see every day in the wild, because you know they're out in the ocean. So yeah, that you gotta do that for sure. Go on a whale watching tour.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you have any other hobbies besides cross stitch?
Well, yeah, I read. I actually dance. I remember, you know, I was thinking what dance. I dance, yeah. So I danced Brazilian zouk. It's like a Brazilian social dance, and also I do salsa, a little bit of bachata. So yeah, I dance. I really like it. Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I haven't really met any other people who say that dancing is one of their other hobbies, so that's kind of cool. This is one of my most favorite questions, and it's, how would your friends describe you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think they would describe me as straightforward person, and a loyal person, I think, and a bit of a mm, emotional, and helpful. I guess it's all good things. Um, I was thinking how, like, which bad qualities they could name. It's hard to think of when it's about you, you know.
Yep.
Maybe I can be sometimes over controlling, like a control freak of sorts. It can be, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Too emotional, like when you cannot, like, hyper a little bit, when you cannot calm down, that can happen as well. And a little bit too straightforward, which is also not very good sometimes.
Let's say honest.
Yeah, honest.
Yeah, honest.
Exactly.
I love asking this question because most people don't really think about, what, their friends think of them or anything like that. So I love asking this. Either people have asked their friends or, like you describe who you are. And it kind of gets you thinking. It does. So those are all very good traits. I'm an emotional person too. Like when we were just talking before, I almost started crying. I just thought that's just me. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Yeah, you gotta roll with it. Yeah.
Um, so how do you prefer to stitch? Do you use like a hoop, a Q-snap, anything like that?
I use everything. I have a frame.
Okay.
So usually if I stitch something like mirabilia, and if I stitch it on witch-held linen, I use the frame because it's a mess afterwards to iron it. If you use hoops, it's almost impossible to get the creases out of the fabric. If I use anything by Zweigart, the linen by Zweigart, I can use anything I want because it's very easy afterwards to you just iron it, and it's quite easy to iron it. But I think I prefer Q-snaps or hoops. Frame is a little bit too bulky for me because I usually, like, I stitch on my sofa, I stitch at my table, like I carry it around wherever I go. With the frame, you have to sit, and you cannot move much. So yeah, my preferred way of stitching is hoops and Q-snaps.
I didn't even think about that with the witchelt versus now I forgot the other brand, but yeah, it's Weigart. That's what it is. I didn't realize that there was much of a difference. I don't think I really use witch alt too much, but is it just because it's a little bit like stiffer?
It's stiffer. I have this
I've
one,
heard,
I think.
I've heard like hoop marks are difficult to get out of fabric, period.
So this is also by Mirabilia. This is witch-held linen, and
okay.
it's well, you cannot see on the camera, maybe like this, but I tried everything. It's very hard to. It's very stiff.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know how to, like, if you can see, but it's actually quite stiff fabric.
More than
It's very hard to. It creases immediately, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's at the mat. Yeah.
Wow, you stitched some beautiful mirrors.
Pretty lady, thank you. Yeah.
Do you have like a preferred fabric and count that you kind of really try to lean towards, or is it just whatever you can kind of get?
I really love Zweigart. Pretty much all their fabrics, but if it's linen, it's what is called Belfast.
Okay.
So it's a 32 count, and any color pretty much, like, depending on the project, or it can be 28 count, which I like a little bit less because my needle always drops in between the threads. Like, yeah, in the holes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I prefer 30 count 32 and Belfast. That's my favorite fabric.
Nice. So this question is kind of an interesting one. Where is your favorite place that you've traveled, and did you bring stitching along when you went?
It's a good question. I One of the favorite places that I traveled, for some reason, I traveled into beautiful places, but for some reason, right now, what comes into my mind is when I went on a business trip to Hamburg, Germany. And I actually stayed there for a couple of days because it was my birthday and I was alone. This is the first and the last time I think that I traveled when I was completely alone in the strange city. And it was interesting and amazing, actually. I usually, because when you travel, you usually always look for company, right? It just happens so. But it was very interesting experience. And I enjoyed it a lot because you get to do whatever you want. You have to go wherever you gut, sort of. And I was just walking through the streets. I went into the bookstore. I stayed there forever. Nobody can survive me in the bookstore.
Yeah,
exactly. And yeah, so I really liked it. I didn't bring my stitching with me because I was not cross stitching back then so much, but I really remember this trip, and I think it's a good idea actually to go maybe once in a while on your own. Why not?
yeah, because going on your own, you kind of are like, you can discover things and take your time and not feel rushed. And I've never done a trip by myself. I think I might try to do that just because it sounds so refreshing, I guess, if that makes sense, because I have kids and I'm married too. So,
Yeah,
go anywhere with someone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to try that. I never even thought about that. So what can you not do without for your stitching? Like your favorite go-to must-have besides the basics?
Besides the scissors and like the needle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, scissors, I guess scissors are a basic, but yeah.
Yeah. I think I would say the needle minder. Even though I can go without needle minder, but I really get used to needle minders. It's really convenient. Very convenient. It took me a long while to actually try it out, but once I tried, it makes a difference. Especially when you're like me and you lose all your needles in your sofa and spend half of the evening, moving the furniture and trying to find it.
Yeah, because you don't want like the dog or your husband's foot or your child's foot to find it. But it's also addicting. I have a needle minder addiction because you just see something cute and you have to buy it and you want it to match your project. So it turns into another hobby basically.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you decide on what you're going to work on next? Do you stitch multiple things or do you kind of like focus since you do mirrors? How does your process work?
I would love to say that I have a system, but I don't. But I like to have different kinds of projects at the same time. Like I would have for example, one full coverage like dimensions, and one sort of like a sampler project, maybe something Ukrainian kind of traditional embroidery technique, and one mirabilia. And then I just choose depending on the day, on the mood, on the week. I would choose. Yeah, exactly. Like what I want to stitch. And usually I also prefer them to be like in different colors because of what we discussed before. Like I really like to, okay, today I'm in the mood for some blues. So I go and I stitch my flowers or something. So that's how I like it. I tend, from what I noticed, I tend to stitch like one project for a week, and then I would like switch it for something else.
Makes sense. So you can see progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I start them, like when I finish the project, I'm thinking already, while I'm finishing the project, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to start this. And I spend a couple of weeks thinking about it. And then once I finish the project, I say, no, I'm starting the other one, So it just happens. Like it depends on the mood. or on something that I saw in some Flosstuber video when I said, okay, I gotta start now, like now. And then I'm like calling to the post office, where is my parcel? I'm waiting for it. Where is it? And my postman is like avoiding my house because I'm like almost, asking him every day, where is it?
That's hilarious. I think that's a common thing with a lot of us stitchers is if we know a package is coming, we want that package now.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Speaking of your mirrors and finishing, do you have plans to get them framed? Because they're so beautiful, the ones that you were holding up. Do you have a place that does framing where you live, or?
So I framed, I think I only have one mirror framed. It's my Andromeda.
Oh, okay.
I do plan to get them framed. I usually frame my projects in Ukraine, just because it's much cheaper. The quality is very good and it's much cheaper. Mm-hmm. So when I lived in Canada, I actually sent 5 of my projects to Ukraine. They sent it back to Canada to me, framed, and still it was like half cheaper than what I would pay for even 2 projects. Like the prices I believe in US, it should be also pretty pricey to frame a project, right?
It's very
yeah. When they told me like in Canada, I think I brought my sampler, the one that I did from Hands Across the Seas. I brought it to the framer, and it was beautiful, but the price was about 350 Canadian dollars, and I framed it in Ukraine for like 30. So it's like the price is very, so obviously it depends also on the frame.
Yeah,
like you can have an Italian frame that is more expensive, or a plastic one that is less expensive. I don't mind. I'm not a snob, but I frame
whatever looks
whatever I find suits the project.
Yeah, it's really
here. But yeah, it's so much cheaper to. Yeah, I can imagine. It's I think it's because of the like a general cost of living and cost of, and the taxes, right?
Yep.
They're much higher as well. So
yeah,
we can imagine that it would be more expensive.
Yeah.
I can share my cover.
Yeah. I just dropped off a piece. We have like a local craft store, Michael's. And I have to wait until they do like a 60 plus a 15 or a 70 plus a, whatever coupons they have, because the piece that I dropped off would have been, I think, a little over $400 without a coupon. And I'm like, there is no way. I mean, it's a beautiful piece, but I'm not paying $400 plus to have it framed. So I was just curious on the pricing. So that's interesting that you can basically mail them to Ukraine, have them framed, and then be cheaper. It's crazy.
Yeah, they send them back in the wooden crate. Like they pack them really well when they send them back, so it would nothing would happen to them, obviously. So
yeah,
I can tell you if you're interested.
Yeah, that's so cool. Before we get to the last question, I'm just curious, is there something that not many people know about you that you'd want to share?
I was thinking, because you shared the question with me before, so I was thinking about this. I realized that I'm pretty much an open book, because there's people usually, like people who know me, they know me, but I realized that maybe the cross-stitching community doesn't know that I actually, I work in finance. I'm an accountant, so it's something that is maybe interesting for somebody.
That is actually interesting.
I work
with numbers and stuff like that. My husband does that. So
yeah, and I really love it. I really love my job. I love sitting with the numbers, and I've been doing it since I was like 21 year old. I still love it.
That's awesome. I am not really good with numbers or anything like that. My husband does supply and logistics, so he works with like spreadsheets and numbers and all that, all day. Nope. I can barely do it. Like, I can barely count my cross stitch. Okay. Like, I have frog a lot. So that is actually pretty impressive.
I cannot count my cross stitch either, I think. So.
Okay. At least I'm not alone in that. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we're down to the last question, and this has been so much fun to learn more about you, and it's pretty awesome. So the last question is, what is the best thing that has happened to you within the last couple of years?
I think that one of the things that happened that I'm really happy is opening the channel. It was a challenge, but it's interesting at the same time, and it pushes me, to, I guess, be more open, to share with the world, to communicate with people, to kind of come out of my shell, sort of. So I really enjoy it. And also I meet so many people thanks to my channel. And it's beautiful because that support that I got in the last 2 weeks,
yeah.
I cannot even, I could not even imagine that it's possible, but I already wrote, I was trying to answer all the comments, and I was telling to every person that I could literally feel, the prayers and the concern and all the the support, and so thankful for it. And the second part the second thing that happened to me is that I moved back to Cyprus. We lived for 5 years in Canada and we loved it. And now we moved back to Cyprus. We used to live here before we moved to Canada, and I'm really happy here as well because we'll have a lot of friends here, and also it's closer to Ukraine, so I could come and see my parents more often, and and my friends as well. So, and it's a beautiful island. Have the sea and the beach. I missed that.
I've heard that Cyprus is beautiful. I don't know if I'll ever get to, experience that, but yeah, that's got to be a pretty amazing place to live. So
we should do the cross stitching retreat, here.
Yeah, there we go. That'd be awesome. I know that you're doing a stitch along, right? For you.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit too. So if you wouldn't mind talking about that and letting people know.
Yeah, let me just bring it over.
Okay, yeah.
It's on the other side of the room.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I find it absolutely amazing how our community has rallied and come together, when it comes to the Russian invasion in Ukraine. There are so many free patterns, there are so many stitch-alongs going on, and it's just been absolutely amazing. So, and you are stitching a beautiful piece for the stitch-along. So,
yeah, I was so surprised when I saw this. I was really amazed at. So I saw this chart, and it's by Long Dog Samplers.
Yep. So
it says Slava Ukraini. Slava Ukraini means glory to Ukraine. It's a motto, kind of our motto, that we say that all our. Sorry, I got a little bit emotional right now.
Yes, okay. I get that way too.
That basically we start saying this now every day instead of hello, instead of good morning, because the mornings haven't been good, for a while now. So we say Slava Ukraini, and this is what our everyone, all the defenders of our country say to us, and so it's a very meaningful phrase. And when I saw it, it was. I just decided that I have to stitch it, and I just invited people to kind of join me. It's not any kind of formal stitch along, where you have to share your progress, and it's just something that people do just to support, I guess, and because it's actually quite a pretty, very pattern. Pretty. Yeah, I'm gonna show you how it's.
And they put that out right now. Free, right? That's a
free it's completely free.
That's what I thought was crazy. Look at that color.
Yeah, so this is how it looks like. Yeah, and a lot of people, they just they chose their own colors. They use like a fancy floss and
Yeah.
different kind of fabric. So it's pretty cool. Sorry that it's all creased, but
Oh no.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is how it looks
Really
like
not.
when it's in the process, right?
Yep. I never
Yeah,
iron
so
mine when I
it's
sew them. Wow.
so yeah, it looks really pretty. So yeah, and I'm very thankful for everyone who decided to join me. It's nice to see people support, and it's priceless to feel all of the support from the Flosstube and cross stitching community. It's great.
Yeah. What's the hashtag for that you're using?
It's SAL Slava Ukraini.
Okay.
It's you can find it in my Instagram.
Yep.
I have it there, and
Awesome. Yeah, the stitching community with the patterns that came out, not just cross stitching, there were some amazing quilting patterns too. I tried to put together like a
oh
few
really?
little
I didn't know
videos.
that.
Yeah, so on my Instagram, I think there's 5 different, I made TikTok videos, but they're on Instagram too. That are just kind of like a slideshow of all the like the freebies or any fundraisers or anything. There were quite a few. When a crisis or a need comes up, our community always rallies and supports. Um, when COVID happened, there were all the COVID free patterns, Black Lives Matter. There was, a whole movement in our community for that. I just love how our community just unites and supports and does patterns like that. And then the stitch along brings everybody together, which is awesome. So I'm glad that you're hosting that. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful piece. Long Dog, absolutely amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. The foster cross stitching community is amazing.
Well, it brought us together talking too. I was
Yep.
so excited when because I had messaged you and I knew you were traveling and getting out of Ukraine. And I'm really honored that you took time out to talk personally about what you went through, as well as all the stitching talk that we did. But so thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know it's evening there, and so you're probably ready to go back in your little hobbit hole and relax.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. It's actually nice. I chose it consciously because everyone is asleep, so I can talk with you. And
Nice.
thanks so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed talking about all things related to stitching because it's like a break, It's
Right.
nice to talk about hobby, and it makes you just relax a little bit.
It
Yeah,
does.
thank you so much. I loved your questions, and it was a pleasure to actually get to meet you.
Oh,
Thank
and
you.
same. So thank you so much. And we're gonna say bye to everybody on Flosstube. Bye.
Bye, Flosstube.